I've seen bits and pieces of your story spread everywhere, but you have like the literal dream come up into the business. I would love, and I don't want you to skip any of it. Okay. So I'm going to just frame it for you. So professional wakeboarder, a real life ninja. I had on my list soon to be father, but obviously you're a father now. And then you got into Airbnb, like flipping and different things, or Airbnb hustle, which is super fascinating and cool. Something I've always wanted to do and just haven't ever been able to figure it out. Could you just walk us through how you went from those three verticals and then now you're in dentistry real estate?
Yeah, sure. So I started wakeboarding when I was pretty young, like around 12 years old. And like immediately I just wanted to be a professional athlete. Like that was my life's goal. Like that was my dream. So I pursued that really hard. I continued, going to school and trying to get good grades and went to college and all that kind of stuff. And so pursuing that led me down to Orlando, Florida, because that's kind of like the hub. And so for 12 years, I got to live the dream of like traveling all over the world and doing photo shoots and competing. And, that my job was wakeboarding behind the boat. And so it was great. I mean, everything has a downside. Like it's not like it's perfect. Like there's a lot of work that goes into it and your body gets hurt all the time. But overall, like I don't have, very many regrets. It was I look back on that very fondly of that period of my life. And so as I started to, while I was wakeboarding, I always like to bite off more than I can chew. And so I ended up, I bought a house in 2011 and I did what's called house hacking, which is where essentially like you rent out the rooms to other people and they pay for your mortgage or then some. In this case, we got a really good deal for the house. So they were actually paying me to live in the house. And it was this cool lakefront, house, 2 stories with a pool and a hot tub and a guest house and all this kind of stuff. So it worked out really well. And then as I kind of started to get, and I kept doing that for a while. And then as I started to,
So you got into that business through the wakeboarding
correct.
money?
Yep. Yeah. So I was wakeboarding and, trying to save money every month. And then I had enough, like pretty much scraped up enough for a down payment of a house and, it was like a 4-bedroom with a guest house. So then I like rented out all the other rooms and I ended up, making money to live there. And I had like the master bedroom and the best view and, I kept my boat on the dock and all that kind of stuff. And so, it was a really sweet deal.
Yep. And then, so then how did you go from Airbnb and then how did like the ninja stuff get in there? And then how did you get into the dental real estate?
Yeah. So what happened? So how I got into that transition into Airbnb. So what happened was that was working out really well. Like I had tenants, roommates, everything that out. So I wanted to buy another house in a little nicer neighborhood when I was looking at getting married, and that sort of thing. So I ended up buying a duplex at another place. And when I moved out, I put that one up on Airbnb. Actually, that's not true. When I moved out, I had long-term tenants at the duplex and I was traveling for wakeboarding. And while I was gone, I was living upstairs by myself. And I'm like, let's try this whole Airbnb thing, see how it works out. So I'd be gone like all the time on these different competitions and photo shoots and stuff. And the house was just always rented out when I wasn't there. I was like, oh, maybe we have something here. So eventually I kicked out the tenants downstairs, turned that into a full-time Airbnb. Upstairs, me and my wife got married. We started living there and then turned out the other place into a full-time Airbnb. So that's kind of like the Airbnb story. And now we're still actively looking to grow that portfolio. We have what you would call 3 doors in that portfolio. And so, but how I got into commercial real estate was I also, as I realized that my body was kind of a depreciating asset, right? Like it was getting worse and worse over time. I needed something that would appreciate. So I started some fitness centers, some businesses that I could put some time into. And so I grew that to about 3 locations and I was looking at doing my 4th location. And that's when I met my now partner. And so what happened was we just got acquainted through friends and we're looking for places to open up the 4th location. And I'd always kind of, flown by the seat of my pants before where it's like, all right, I live close to this area. I think a lot of people drive by here. This feels like we're going to get a lot of clients that walking by. But what they did was they made it much more categorical and much more quantifiable. And so they just broke down all of the different data. Like, okay, what's your competition saturation here? And we're going to give that a score, right? Like what's the population density? We're going to give that a score. What is the street visibility? We're going to give that a score. And so we really got very granular with the data and we broke everything down into a chart. And I actually had numbers to go by the feelings. And so it wasn't just like, oh, I kind of feel good. This kind of feels expensive. It's like, no, we know exactly how much you're paying. We know exactly how this scores on the chart. And so I was really impressed with the way that they did things, and that was kind of our introduction. And so fast forward a little bit, I ended up selling the gyms in 2019. I ended up retired from wakeboarding in 2017, focused on the gyms, sold those in 2019, thankfully, before COVID. So I was lucky because I was able to get a good multiple of profits before we got out. And then I was kind of like, okay, what am I, I started investing in some projects with him, and I was like, hey, why don't he said, why don't you come work with us like full time? So that was a couple years ago. And that's how that happened. And then kind of independently of that, my wife really liked the Ninja Warrior thing. And so it was like, while I had just sold the gyms, had a little bit more free time, was starting to do commercial real estate full time with my partners over here at Leaders. And then it's like, you know what, my body feels really good. I've been recovering. Why don't I do something to just totally abuse it so I can get back to my And that's how we started doing Ninja Warrior. And so after about a year of doing that, we got the call to be on the show this year, which was just such a blessing. Was so excited. And they aired it, because you don't know, even if you get on the show, you don't know if we're going to air your run or not. But we got a whole feature, and it was great. My wife would have been doing it with me, except for the fact that somebody got her pregnant. So
she should do. There's no Ninja Warrior pregnant people. They don't do
actually,
that.
what's funny is she would have done it. She was willing to do it because she was confident enough that she could fall in a way that was safe, but the producers weren't having it.
No, they that's bad PR if something goes wrong there for sure. So then, but you got aired because you won, right?
Well, I didn't win the whole thing, right? Like, it just goes in sections, and so it's like, you go through each course at a time. And so, I was fortunate enough, I cleared the whole course and hit a buzzer, and that was great for my rookie year for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so there's times, right? You have to time out.
Times, and then actually right now they still haven't finished showing everything. So there's different stages. So the final stage is actually airing tonight. Today's Monday. I'm not sure when this podcast will actually air, but like they're still going through and they're still showing the rest of the season for the two, I guess it's called season 13.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch that. And then how did you, so at what part, so that makes total sense. So you got your wakeboarding, you're like living every young man's dream, right? And doing that professionally, you flip that into Airbnb. And then you flip the Airbnb into starting to buy some of that commercial real estate, and you meet your partner. And then how did that turn into dental? Like where did dental come
so
into the
my
picture?
partner has been focused on like what you call Medtail. It's like medical retail. So that actually encompasses a little bit more than just dental. Dental is a big part of that, right? Like dental is absolutely probably the biggest thing of what we do. But we also do a little bit of urgent care and, mental health. It would also encompass like veterinary and dermatology and ophthalmology and stuff like that. And so, he's been doing this for 13 years because that's how his kind of mentor did things as well. And essentially, it's just really a largely underserved area of the market. Like when you go to trying to broker a deal for like Starbucks or Chipotle or, a lot of these fast food places, we call them QSRs, like quick service restaurants. There's a lot of competition there, all the really big names that but the medical industry, healthcare in general doesn't have that that appeal, that pizzazz to it. And so we've been focused on that industry because there's so many people that need help in that industry, and the upside is just so great.